Welcome. I am Dr. Andrea Bowens-Jones, certified coach, speaker, and trainer, and I am really passionate about bridging conversations to help people grow stronger. The name of my company is IDG Vision, and it stands for Inspire, Develop, Grow. This is more than just the name of a company for me. It is my mandate. It is my passion. It is why I was put on this earth, is to inspire, develop, and grow leaders to be better. And so this series, Brown Bag Virtual Lunchtime series, I launched it in May as a way to kind of just bring together, in particular, women to have conversations that matter. And if you've started just today, or you have been with me on this entire journey, or peeked in and out over the last 6 months, hopefully you got the gist of it. It is designed to inspire, challenge you just a bit. So I hope something is said today that challenges the way you think or the way you act, and educate you while connecting as a community. So I'm so excited about this last topic, not only because of who I get to speak to today, but because it is girl talk. And when I think of some of the big decisions that I've made in navigating my career, they didn't always come from mentors. And we had a session on mentors, and mentors are absolutely needed and help. They came from having a trusted girlfriend like Dr. Ellen Burtz Cooper in my corner, where we could have those iron sharpens iron. You know, that girlfriend that will kick you in the butt when you need it, or love on you when you might need something loving on, or tell you you're overreacting. Get yourself together, girl. Pull up your big girl panties. It's time to get to work. She is that girlfriend for me. And so when I was thinking about pulling together and just tying a bow on this series, the thought came to what would be that thing, and inviting people into some of our conversations is what I presented to Ellen. Keeping my fingers crossed. Come on, we can do it. We can have this conversation. But I want to expand the table. So it's not about you guys just listening to us talk today and having some of those conversations, me ask her questions and interviewing her. She does that all the time. But it really is intended about having a conversation where we're all at the table. So I encourage you to use the chat function. If you can't use the chat function, raise your hand. I do have one of my trusted friends, Sandy Welfare, is going to help manage the logistics and making sure questions are answered, because we're all invited to the table for this conversation. All right, so you guys ready for girl talk? Yes. This is when I see excitement in the windows.
Ready.
Thank you. If I can get the slide to advance. I love this quote. I used it early on during the mentoring one, and I thought, man, I should bring it back as we kind of wrap up this series. And it's from Michelle Obama. We should always have three friends in our lives: one who walks ahead, who looks up, excuse me, one who walks ahead, who we look up to and follow, one who walks beside us, who is with us every step of our journey, and then one who reach back and bring along after we've cleared the way. That's a powerful quote uh, from Michelle Obama. And I think it sets the stage because Dr. Ellen has been the friend in front, the friend beside, and the friend behind, because we go back to graduate school. So I want to turn it over to introductions for her to introduce and tell a little bit of her story before we kind of get into today's questions. Just want to remind you that if you have questions, you don't have to wait to the end. You can drop them in the chat or raise your hand as we go along the way. Okay, so Dr. Ellen, I do want you to tell a little bit of your story, but I want to add a little bit of a caveat as you kind of tell your story, because I want you to frame it around one of your newest passions, which is about wellness. And in particular, you focus on women. And I don't want to leave this conversation today without you sharing a little bit about what Girl Talk means to you in terms of wellness. So, to
I,
introduce my lunch buddy, Dr. Ellen Burtz Cooper.
hello, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Andrea, for having me here. So I'll start with Girl Talk. Girl Talk is straight talk, no hesitations, no apologies. I don't have to apologize to my girlfriends because we don't have to be cautious around each other. So that's what straight talk, whatever's the moment that day we talk about, that's what we tackle. So that's the girl talk. But part of the journey, you mentioned the wellness piece. And I opened a wellness studio in Cleveland, Ohio, about 3 years ago. And I did that because I do a lot of work. I go into companies every day. Now I Zoom in and I do leadership training, and I teach at a university. I train mostly senior management professionals on leadership. Really, how to be nice at work is what you really want to call it. We call it fancy leadership. It's how to be nice at work training. And a few years ago, I was working really hard, and I was diagnosed with a debilitating illness for there is no cure. And that didn't work for me. Like the doctor says, well, that's what it is. Well, that does not work for me. So what else you got? Right? That does not work. And so I decided a wellness journey made sense. And I went down my own pathway. And then I thought, how many women would see me and not even realize it? Look at Misty. Misty going, what she got? Missy trying to figure it out. You've been knowing me all these years, didn't know there are days I can't walk. Missy didn't know that. I just fall to the side real cute, right? Or you see me sitting down. I say, oh, Misty, go ahead. I'm not getting up. I'm lazy today. But I masked that from people. And how many women I thought are doing that too. And maybe if we help each other teach wellness strategies, we don't have to do that. So I'm into helping people with stress management and making sure they understand how to reserve their energy for when they need it. We think about self-care, and it's really about bringing the best of yourself, not just what's left over, right? I heard a blogger say that and I loved it. So that's how I got into the wellness in corporate America, but I love to talk about it with girlfriends too.
Forgot I was on mute. Awesome. And thank you for sharing a little bit of your story. So we're going to kick off because I think there was so much energy about boss lady moves. And I don't want to wait for that one, but I want you to talk a little bit about just your professional journey because I think it sets us up for how you've made some of these big, bold choices because you're a chemist. We're women in STEM and you're doing wellness. What? It doesn't make sense, right?
It
So,
makes
yeah, it
sense.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So I started out an undergrad, a business major, and my advisor said, do you want to be a business major or do you want to graduate? I was not doing well. If it's not an equation and it's not black and white, I didn't do well with it. So I switched over to chemistry. She said, you're the only business major taking thermodynamics as an elective. Like I was like, well, that's the easiest class I have. Art flunk, music flunk, thermo A plus. She was like, you might want to think about that. Business may not be your thing. Marketing, I was like, well, I don't know what a brand looks like, but give me an equation. I got you. So I changed over to chemistry, not because I wanted to. It was like I knew I could do well. Got out, tried to get a job, and they said, job pays this, but you could make this after you go to grad school. Went to grad school. So I treated it like a job. So I wasn't there because I loved it. I was there because I thought it would work. Finished the PhD in chemistry, met this woman who, by the way, is not going to tell you the story. My first day as a grad student, they assign you somebody to help you out. Oh, I'm going there. You want to go? Let's go. They assigned somebody. This is over 20 years ago. They assigned somebody to help you out on campus. She doesn't want to show up. Shows up an hour and a half late. Has
30
already
minutes, 30
it was out.
minutes.
It was at least an hour. And just walked in. She was like, oh, I know you were a sister. I was like, are you serious right now? But we hit it off from then on. We literally, at that moment, I was like, I like this lady. And we've been buddies ever since. And then I went into chemistry, did that for 8 or 9 years in corporation and decided I didn't want two things. I don't want a cap on my income, right? Even though you're the CEO, there's still a cap. And number two, I want to control what I do, when I do, and who I'm around, right? At work, I couldn't. I could avoid people, but I want to control what I do, who I'm around, and how I do it. So I struck out and decided I'm going to start a consulting company. And I've been doing that since 2011, full time, going well. And I enjoy doing
Going
it. Then I
well.
decided
Understatement.
I'm going to open these facilities. So I opened 3 in Cleveland where teams can come and hang out. And then I decided, it's cold in the winter here in Cleveland. So I moved part year to Florida and opened a retreat center down here. So in the winter, I can hang out here and train. Summer, I can go there where it's nice. So I kind of get the best of both worlds. And I say it's not without hard work, a lot of crying and tears, but it was by design. And that's what I work with a lot of women now. You say, if you want it, go ahead, design it. We can figure out how to make it work. And that's sort of been the motto. It's just, if you want it, if you design it, but you're going to spend some late nights and you're going to do a lot of homework. So that's what I'm hanging out now. I Zoom into companies every day, do a little training, and then I'm done at the end of the day. And I start the next day, and I love it.
Yes. So along the lines with this boss lady moves, what's the hardest lesson that you've learned on the journey of
Wait,
wellness?
I might be having trouble hearing. Is it
Can,
just
Can you hear me?
A little bit loud. Talk like your Atlanta voice. Use that one, the loud one.
Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, that's it.
All right. I said along the lines with these boss lady moves, how you've jumped and grown your career. What's the hardest lesson you've learned in becoming you?
Yeah, I think my biggest lesson was I was the one putting my own boulders in my own way. Like, let's be honest, I was always saying this person doesn't empower me and this person did this. And I had a professor once, and I think Andrea knows about this one, who basically looked at me and said, if we give you this degree, it'll look like it was too easy. Like, wait, what? What does this mean? And he just didn't want me there. He said, why don't you just get a master's? Your family will be so proud if you just got a master's. Now, Misty, look, I didn't even want the degree. Now, guess what? Oh, I'm getting 3 or 4 of them. I didn't even want it at that. I was actually considering leaving on my own. Now, oh no, I'm not going anywhere. And I always for years said, that guy, and I told you about it, he didn't empower me. He did this. What I realized is him saying that didn't disempower me. My believing it did. All those years I believed it. So guess what? I can blame him all I want. I was putting imagine these big rocks you put in your own way. Now I got to either go around it, go over it. And I was proud that, oh, I beat that, defeated that, I defeated that. But here's the problem. By the time you get to the finish line, you're more tired than your counterparts. And guess who put the boulders there? I did. So it's this whole idea I started reading about. It's called upper limit syndrome. You get to a certain point and then you limit yourself because you either believe what's around you, the negativity, or we also have you guys heard of self-sabotage? I would get right to the finish line, then sabotage myself, do something that didn't make sense, and then I would fall back 2 or 3 steps. We do it with eating all the time. How many of you have been eating, whatever you want to do? Say you lost the weight, you get within 5 pounds of your goal, you're looking good, then you say, well, I'm gonna go out to eat. No, you're not. See, that's exactly, I'm gonna go get the ice cream. So the upper limit syndrome, what I was doing was allowing others to control how I showed up. Right. And I decided I'm not going to do that anymore. You don't get to control how I show up. So I would say that was my biggest barrier.
Mm. Hard to believe, as bold as you are in everything that you say. But I think that's a perfect kind of segue into another topic we're going to throw out there: finding and owning your own voice.
Yeah.
Because even though we say that women, Black women, maybe not struggle with it,
Yeah.
that when I look back on my corporate career, there is something different from the first day I walked in and that last day I walked out. Like, I don't know at what point did I pass the baton and give my voice over. So many women struggle with it. What advice do you have with a woman who is just trying to find her voice, her place? And what would you tell her?
I would say that, I mean, I'm going to give you a few perspectives on it. One, the simple answer is knowing your voice. What is your voice? A lot of people say, what, they won't listen to me, they won't hear me. Be really clear on what it is you're trying to get to resonate with others. Be really clear on your voice. What are your convictions? What are your passion? And don't be afraid to do your homework. Have the energy to do the homework. So first, it's got to be knowing your voice. Sometimes we're afraid to put it out there because we're not sure, right? Test it out, do some homework. That's first. And then you want others to listen to your voice. If you're going to get people to listen to you, it's got to be clear. It's got to resonate with them. Like, people are not listening to stuff that matters to you. It's got to matter to them. It's got to be their priority. And so I tend to, if I want my voice out there first, I'm really convicted in what it is. I'm not saying it's perfect or it may be right, but I know I've done my homework. I feel good about it. So I'm not afraid to put it in the room and even have to defend it at some point. But the other thing is, I've got to tell the story in a way that resonates with the other person. That's just a simple example. I was watching a young lady who was trying to get a company, this is just last week, to adopt diversity, equity, and inclusion. And she had a great message, but she wasn't sure about it, right? She knew it was the right thing to do, but she kept hesitating. Then you could tell within the conversation, she got really bold about it and she talked about it. But here's what she said: you should have DE&I, diversity, inclusion, equity, in your company for these reasons. You could see everybody on the call sort of check out. And I just sent her a chat and say, how about you flip that around? I went on the website in 30 seconds, found the CEO's message. I said, why don't you say Do you want to surpass your metrics that your peer companies showed last year? I said, just put it out there. And she chatted back. And so we went back, and then she finally said, well, look, she wasn't getting anywhere. They were fighting her on diversity and inclusion. And she said, well, do you want to surpass your metrics? I mean, she did it brilliantly. Like, we weren't even chatting each other. And he says, well, of course I want to surpass my metrics. How do I do that? And I said, now go into your spiel. And she went into equity and inclusion. Next thing I know, he's taking notes. So he went from fighting you to writing down your words. Make it about him. He can't hear your voice until he can see himself in it. So that's just kind of one example. I see people start with what matters to them. And unfortunately, not everybody feels that way, right?
Oh, I
So I
think
hope
that's
that
great.
helps. Yeah.
I see some head nods. Anybody want to give a thumbs up? Use your some of your what do you call those little things? Emoji things at the bottom. But yes, it's so perfect because we get caught up in wanting to share our own and feel like if I don't get my thing out, they won't
Right.
hear me. But sometimes getting your voice out is just giving your opinion about the thing that's going on. So there was
Right.
something else you said in there that I love that I wanted to hit on a little bit was fear. The When you first started, you said what keeps people many times is fear. And I know we have had a lot of conversations
Oh,
with
yeah.
me on this journey of especially to get enough courage to admit to myself that it was time for me to leave my corporate job is fear. Fear will keep you lying to yourself. So I want you to talk a little bit about that beautiful gift of failure
Yeah.
and that fear of failure and the lessons that we can extract out of it and advice to someone who is facing fear to be able to kind of move to their next boss lady move kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think all of us have faced something we are afraid of. And fear is actually not a bad thing in some portions. There ought to be some things that you're a little bit apprehensive about, right? Otherwise, you can't protect yourself, right? At night, you see something going down, you go, whoa, wait, let me go back to my car. So there is a place for it. But I think sometimes we do an overuse of it, and we think, I wish I wasn't afraid. Well, actually, if you look at courage, it's the willingness to do something in spite of fear. So you actually need a little bit to be able to show you, well, I want to be courageous, but I don't want to be scared. They don't work like that. Courageous or being courageous and having courage means willingness to do it in spite of fear. So there are going to be some things we're afraid of. But I think the whole idea is that there's a quote I love, and it says, life doesn't get more forgiving. We get stronger and more resilient. So guess what? We're not going to eliminate fear. We're not going to eliminate stress. We learn how to manage through them. So my biggest thing was people say, Ellen, you're not afraid of anything. Oh yeah, I'm afraid. I am managing through the fear right now. And so first thing with managing fear is education. What am I up against? How bad is this? So I'm doing some research. Okay, if I do fail, how much money can I lose in this deal? All right, if this doesn't work. So first thing, if you're going to do, manage your fear, you got to know what you're up against. How many of you thought the fear was this big and it turned out to be this big?
Yes.
Right? But do our homework, we'll find out it's not. And then once I do that, then I see what I'm up against. I weigh my pros and cons. Okay, what is the absolute worst that can happen if it goes this way? And I'll say, ooh, that's kind of bad. But then I look at the appreciative side. That's the deficit based thinking, which is okay. Deficit based is what's the worst that can happen. Ugh. Appreciative thinking, I had to learn to balance that. I didn't have that side of my brain. It was, what's the best that can happen? So think about buying this property in Florida. What's the worst that can happen? I can lose everything, file bankruptcy. Okay. But what's the best that can happen? I get to hang out at a resort every day and live here. I was like, man,
Change people's lives. How about that? The thing that you do that.
right. It didn't look so bad. So I think if we look at both sides of the equation, sometimes the what's the worst can happen looks horrible because you haven't thought about what good you could do. If I get one person walk out of here and say things are different, I could care less about not getting it exactly right. So looking at both sides. So I would just say, see what you're up against first. Usually it's a lot smaller than we think. Don't run away from the fear. It's going to, just admit it. I want everybody to say it's going to be there. Just mouth it to yourself at your house. Fear is going to be there. We don't make fear go away. We learn to manage through it. Acknowledge it, do your homework. And the last thing is have some people around you that can help you out, right? You got to have resources. If this goes this way, can you help me do this? So some risk mitigation planning too. But don't say we're not going to be afraid. We manage it.
Okay, you guys see why when we get on the phone, sometimes our phone calls are like 4 hours long and they're like retreats. Because I'll ask her one question and then we'll be like, what? Because one of the things that I thought about when you were saying that is when I was contemplating on making a huge career move and called you up and it was, well, actually you were in town when it happened, and we went to lunch and I shared with you, okay, my job is changing. I I don't know what I want to do. I remember you asking me the question, and it's one of those soul stirring questions like, what if? Like, what if? Would you want to do this? What if you could do my program that I was doing at the time full time? What if you can do that? Can you talk a little bit about like how you build those strategies and come up with all these scenarios like in 5 seconds to kind of help bring down that fear before we switch to another topic?
I think it's a lot of plan. I mean, I spent a lot of time in my own strategic planning process. That means pajamas on Saturday morning and a whiteboard. I have 2 whiteboards in my house. No joke. Huge.
Mhm.
I spent a lot of time planning and thinking, literally think time. Just what if I did this? Oh, I'm going to try this. You do it enough, it becomes habit. So you run
Mhm.
into something, and as soon as it happens to you, you got, okay, then you just go through your process. What if this? What if this? What if he's not up to anything? What if this person really does mean well by you? What if? So I think it is having a process where you spend time with yourself thinking. Like I know we're all paid on this line to do our jobs, and we all do the same job. I don't care what industry you're in. You are paid to think. You are paid to think. It was funny, a janitor once heard me say that in a class, and he said, doesn't take much thinking in my job. I empty the trash. I said, so why didn't you walk in here last week when I was here at the university? He said, what do you mean? He said, no, I emptied. I said, no, I'm not getting you in trouble. Why didn't you come in the classroom after I finished? He said, oh, that lady was crying. She looked upset. So I figured I'd just go do the other floors, then come back. He goes, oh, I see what you're saying. I said, we're paid to think. You could have just walked in there and emptied the trash. But something about that situation, you read it and said, if she's crying, maybe I don't want to enter the room. You were paid to think. Most people would have just walked in and grabbed the trash. So I think it's spending time alone with ourselves, really doing some searching about what we care about, what's important, what's core to us.
Yeah. And then when you find it out, tell yourself the truth. That was my thing.
Well, that's a
Tell
different
yourself, tell yourself the truth. Uh,
that's a
let's
different
talk about turning no's to yeses. I said for those that were on the call earlier and had a chance to kind of complete the poll, I mentioned that I think, one of Ellen's greatest skills is this woman does not accept no, just doesn't. When she has in her mind, it's a yes. She is relentless, and I don't care if it's relentless with you because she knows it's a yes. So I want to talk about turning no's to yeses, like people who are struggling with rejection and disappointment and these walls that have maybe come up,
Yep.
and how can they build some strategies to turn some of those no's into yeses.
I think really, and Andrea, she's making it seem like I just go banging on people's doors. You're going to answer me, talk to
No.
people. No, that is not how this goes, right?
No, but you have to admit this is a skill that you're really good at. Come on, you got to
But
admit.
and I'll give you, here's a trick. It's building trust. People don't tend to say no to people they trust. So if you look at it, I tried this a number of ways. I'll spare you all the details, but I tried doing it this way, and I tried being assertive training, and I try forget it. People say yes to people they trust. So I started doing research around what does it mean to be trusted. And one was, say, for instance, you're going up for a new job and you're trying to get a yes. Then, okay, competence trust. Do you know your stuff? So if I really know my stuff, I'm not going to have to convince you. So if I'm going to go for this person and get a yes, I better know my stuff in and out. And I find a way to let that person know I know it. Contractual. People trust people who do what they say and deliver. So if I want to get this other stretch assignment or I want to win over this client, I'm going to show you I can deliver. So each person you want a yes from, you have to go after them a different way. One person, he doesn't care what you know, he doesn't care what you deliver. He gives yeses to people he likes. So I started to make connections with him. I got to know him. We get on the Zoom call a few minutes early. I notice he's always early on the Zoom call. So I get on 5 minutes early. And now we chat. Now I know his dog. Who names your dog Peter? I don't know. Like, no, Bill. It's like his dog has like a normal name. Like, it's just weird. So I was laughing with him about it. And he was like, everybody thinks that you're the first person to actually say it. You don't call out my dog's name. And we were laughing and we get to know each other. People got on the line. They were like chatting me. How do you know him? You guys known each other for a while. And now we have running jokes. That guy would never have taken a one-on-one meeting with me. He doesn't care what you know or if you deliver. He goes, I know a million people that can deliver. He said, I give opportunities to people I know. So I think everybody you're going after, that's why that think and study time, what is it that they need to be able to trust me? For some people, they just need pure honesty, right? For trust, like I have friends where I would just tell them very honestly, this is what I think went on. And I had a girlfriend look at me and say, nobody else was that honest with me. I said, I know it might hurt a little bit, but you can trust I'm going to have your back and I'm going to tell you. No one else told you walking out that room the impact of what you did. It was bad. She went off and everybody was like, well, you had a reason to. No, you didn't. No, you sing in the choir at church Sunday. You're going to feel real bad up there singing after you just did what you did.
Or maybe not.
Maybe not. Her point was, I might not like you giving me that feedback, but you can trust me. Right. And so I think it's whatever the person or the entity you're trying to influence and get the yes from, find out what they need from you to be trusted. And that formula's been working.
It has served you well. Served you well. Okay. Any
Doesn't mean I don't get no's. Wait, Andrea, I want to clear some up. I get a no's.
Yes, you get no's, but I can be honest about a skill that I think, like, if I need a strategy in this area, a skill that I need, then I will go and say, okay, let me bounce this off of you because you're really good at getting those
Thank
yeses
you.
over and over. And I don't care how diverse the room is. You could be the only one that look like you. You'll walk out with a yes where everybody else gets a no. That's the truth, guys. All right, questions in the chat. Make sure you go ahead and drop them in there. You don't have to wait to the end. I'm just going to take one. They want to know where
So
your
there's a few.
facility is.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry. Yeah, I was just
Go
going to
ahead.
say,
I thought you
yeah,
had walked away.
no, there were a few that were around where your facilities in Cleveland, and then another one around what the name was.
Yeah, so it's Improved Consulting and Training Group, and they're in Midtown in Cleveland. And I'm very proud of, so one's designed like a wine bar, but these are all private for teams. Looks like a big living room with the wine bar. The one looks like a coffee shop with an art gallery, and one is a huge wellness center with lamps and flowers like behind me. So I designed them all different so teams have a different feel when they come in. So they're in Cleveland and Midtown. I see Renee's from Cleveland. Come on, visit. I'm in Florida right now, but when I get back, come visit me, Renee.
Any more questions Sandy, that you noticed in there?
No.
Okay.
I did want to go back to the one comment that you made, Dr. Ellen, was around the lady who was trying to sell her idea around diversity and inclusion. And you said that he can't hear your voice until he can see himself. But how is it that you actually get people to that point? Because I think that we're now very aware of diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging, yet we still have what I would consider the fog. Just can't see through it because it's almost like there's no what's in it for them. And so they're not as engaging, not as willing. So just really would be interested in hearing your thoughts.
I think, Sandy, you answered it. What's in it for them? They always call it the WIFM. Fine. When she said diversity, equity, whatever. But when she said, do you want to have this in terms of productivity? Then all of a sudden, he stood up because that's what's in it for him. Oh, I get there through DE&I. Okay, I'll take it. Right. So I think it is listening and being very watchful and very curious. I didn't know this person because I just met him literally live on Zoom, but I just went to the website. That's what doing the homework. While everybody was looking, I was reading his statement, the CEO statement, and the first 3 lines, he told you what he cared about. Now, more you get to know this person, listen to their voice, they'll tell you exactly what they care about, right? And so when you listen, and I want to, Misty put in the chat, someone told me to be more interested than interesting. So I'm more interested in you. Curiosity Man, that is the best driver of strategy. So I don't know if you see that in the chat with Misty. People try to give you their bio and I'm being interesting. We all love doing that. But if I really want to know, I see beautiful Carolyn. I saw her on the last one. She's just gorgeous. I'm just looking at her. If I would just start asking her a lot of questions. I want to know how she gets her hair like that. Is it always that perfect? Right? She's got the red. I mean, I would be interested in learning about people. And sometimes we're not patient enough to spend the time. Once you learn people, you get what matters to them. And then you can put it in terms. She didn't say anything different. She just structured it to get his attention first. That's all.
Spoke his
But
language.
are we curious enough to care about what people think about? My neighbor next door has got his Trump sign and his Confederate flag. I'm not making any judgments. I'm just giving some data. It's right next door. And when I came out, you don't get to decide my day. I said, good morning. I said, we have 5 things in common. I said, and it's kind of interesting. You do XYZ to your tree. He goes, what? I said, notice every morning you stop at your tree and do this. So I looked it up. And if you prune here, that's why you have probably the nicest tree in the neighborhood. He goes, you notice I do that? I said, you do it every morning. I'm out here. I'm not creepy, but I see you do it. And it's a really good practice. Most people don't do it. Well, yeah, that's why I got flagged down the next day. That's how you do that. Like he realizes now she's interested in me. Now he wants to talk about the tree every day. That's the only problem now. But that's a small price to play to get the flag down. I don't care. I think it was being watchful. That is so important to him to do that every single day. Why not be curious about it? Because he loves talking about it. So I could have said, you take it down and this. No, no, no. Win people over the way they can hear you.
That's a good point. Thank you. What are the methods of overcoming upper limit syndrome? I have it and do not realize it until I am too deep, then have regrets. And that's from just B January.
Yeah. So she said, I have it and I don't realize it, right? We all have it. I think that with the upper limit piece is what you just put in the chat is first recognizing that you're doing it to yourself, right? My issue was everybody was doing it to me. No, Ellen, you're doing it to yourself by believing this and let people drive how you see yourself. So that's one. Then backing up and getting feedback from somebody you really trust. Well, Dr. Andrea, do I really do this? Somebody said this. Do I really belong here? Get feedback from somebody who's going to give you hard. If they say, well, yeah, he might be kind of right. Okay. But if you get feedback from that person, they tell you, no, that's not it. The problem is your feedback is coming from one source, and that source may not be in your best interest. So get another set of feedback. Now, here's where I'm going to scare you. Sometimes it's not feedback. Sometimes we do it to ourselves. It's called self-talk. I just want to see hands. Let me open my other screen. How many of you have done negative self-talk? Oh, that was so stupid. Why did I do that? Raise your hands. I know. Sandy, put your hand up. You know you do it. The rest of you have cameras off. I can't tell,
Yes,
but I
yes.
see it. But we always do it to ourselves. I think reversing that self-talk, right? I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. I'll say, I shouldn't have done that. But I replace it with also something more positive. I'll reframe it. Okay, Ellen, you messed up on that, but I did a good job on this one. We tend to go down that deficit-based thing and we're tearing ourselves apart. So if you want to remove around upper limit syndrome, don't take it from external sources and certainly don't do it to yourself. Quickly reverse those negative statements and say, okay, I messed up on that deal, but I did learn this. It won't happen again. And whatever that is, you have to say to yourself. How many of you practice the positive part of it? Misty, I know you do. Misty is rainbows and Skittles. I love
Yes, she is.
oh, I mean, it is. Sometimes I go over the top with it. I'm like, ooh, the sun's gonna shine today. I start singing Annie, but on real bad days, you have to have enough self-talk to overcome the stress of what's happening. And sometimes it's just fun.
If you don't talk yourself up, who else will?
Exactly.
More questions.
Of course, this might end up with me getting your number later so we can chit chat further. So I mentor quite a few people, and the one thing I realized is that, or I had to come to the realization, you cannot save everyone from themselves. There are scenarios of where, people just act out in their workplace and do all these various things, and you try to give them as much feedback as you can. What has been your experience of just trying to get people to turn around that negative for themselves? Because it's almost like they believe it's stronger than others, but it's one of those things where they have to let it go in order for you to be able to give them something else to replace it with. So what
Yeah.
has been your experience?
And so let me make sure I'm understanding it, Sandy. So you have somebody who's maybe negative and you need them to give that up so you can help them move past it.
Like they literally have the story set in their head, and it just, all it's on is repeat. It's like their iPod will not play another thing except that story.
Yeah, and that's like April's comment in the chat is how you get over upper limit syndrome. You play a different tune, a different story. But with other people, I look at it as a physics principle, energy in, energy out. I am willing to spend as much energy as you're willing to give back. And so there's some people you go, Ellen, you work so hard to help her. Oh, because every time I try to talk to this person, they're open, they're willing, they're trying, they may get it wrong. But if you're only giving me 2 inches, I'm not giving you 4. So I'll meet you where you are. I'll try really hard to have you give me a little bit more, but I put my energy where I know I'm going to get the best return. And there's some people, I'll be honest, I used to try and give everybody 1,000%. It does not work when they're giving you 2% back. Now you've spent a lot of energy. Now the poor person over here who wants to be mentored, you didn't spend time there. So I put a lot of effort, but then I match your energy and I'm not putting in more than you're willing to give. Right? It's just a good preservation of my time. And some people, let's just be honest, they actually like in the Kirk Franklin song, they're addicted to pain. They like being in that place and you're not going to take them out of it.
Until they're ready.
Yeah, it may be another, and sometimes I say I'm not the right resource. You know, maybe there's somebody else who can resonate with you more. My style doesn't work for everybody, but there's some people who like where they are and you're not going to move them out of that place. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, we have a question from Kathy. What wellness services do you provide?
Yeah, Kathy, we do a lot of stress assessments. So we have an assessment that we use, some physicians developed it, and it looks at your stress in 7 different areas. And then we do coaching on, depending upon where your stress is, what types of activities or actions you need to take. We do a bit around four big areas: mindfulness coaching, nutrition. So we always tell you to substitute, eliminate, or trade off one thing. We do sleep, right? Setting a sleep strategy, because that's critical. And then movement. I don't call it exercise. I call it just some form of movement every single day. So we usually help you in those 4 areas, with the backdrop being around stress management. And it's all based on corporate. So we wouldn't just have an individual, but it's how do you manage this in a corporate environment or workplace?
Yeah, because there are people are really struggling.
Yeah.
And now that people are working from home, I could imagine what that will look like for you in 2021.
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
questions? If not, I have one.
Uh-oh.
Okay. I want you to talk a little bit about, because I know we're down to last 15 minutes. I want to talk about being in the moment, to kind of switch the gears a little bit. And when moments of life, if you think about all that has happened in 2021, you flip on the TV, you can go down a rabbit hole. I don't know, you could pick up the phone and have a conversation with somebody and find yourself on the back end of a negative movement. How do you just be in the moment, so that whether it's a celebration or even sadness, because we have to deal with pain too in the moment.
Yep.
Can you speak a little bit about that, and especially in reference to some of the wellness stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, I think if I had to summarize it, I would say being adaptable and flexible, right? When things happen, think about it. When you brace up against that thing and you're not willing to change, that's the whole definition of stress, is that tension. So being able to be adaptable and flexible without compromising your standards. So when COVID hit, there are people who, nope, I'm not letting my workers go home and work from home. They won't do anything. There are people who weren't willing to bend a little bit, but bending doesn't mean I'm going to compromise my core values. It means I'm going to adjust to make sure I don't break. And there's the quote, Robert Jordan, I say it all the time, is the oak, like think about a big oak tree, tall. The oak fought the wind and it was broken. The willow bent and it survived. And so being able to adjust and bend, life is different. So rather than holding on to my new norm, what is it going to be? It's doing something. Self-care is a big part of it. right? Like the blogger said, give the best of you, not the rest of you. And so I started doing a little bit more than I normally would do in self-care. Taking a little bit more time to do things like, my nails. I never do my nails. I painted them myself. Took about an hour because I kept messing up and
All on the edges.
real bad, kind of bad, right? Just little things that I normally wouldn't do for myself, sitting outside, just enjoying sometimes sitting in the sunshine, just sitting, thinking, forgiving myself a lot easier now. When I mess something up, I would just beat myself up. Then I try the positive talk. I forgive a lot sooner now.
That's a good one.
Forgive
Forgiving
myself
yourself.
and others a lot sooner than I used to. And I surround myself with positive people. And
Yes,
doesn't
you do.
positive doesn't mean happy all the time. You do not
No.
have to be on 10 all the time.
Mm-mm.
Positive just means I want to trend in that direction. We could cry for 3 hours on the phone, but people who support you and want to do well for themselves. And the last thing, so it's kind of what is self-care, the who are people around me. And I manage my energy. So I notice I'm a lot more productive in the mornings, early mornings. So I tend to do my hardest work then so I wouldn't procrastinate. Managing your energy is critical. Andrea is a night owl. When I come to visit her, I'm in bed by 7. She is still up.
Up.
Check.
And
Make me
she's
stay up at
sleeping.
midnight. I'm like, I get up at 4 a.m. I can't
4.
stay up at like 4 a.m. every day. But I learned
And
where to
now I'm struggling at 6 to drinking 5 cups of coffee to stay up with her. Yeah.
but I think that's important because you have more patience with people, right? You have more empathy with people
Mhm.
when you deal with them when you're in your best energy zone. 6 o'clock is PM is not the best time to ask me a question. You get what you get. Right? 6 in the
I
morning,
like that Ellen. That Ellen is raw. She's not polished.
she needs counseling because that 6 p.m. she's tired. But I just learned to put my energy in the times where I feel most of it. And that helps you manage stress a lot easier.
That's good.
There's one other item that came through from Nani. You mentioned you choose who you spend time who you spend
Can I
time
just
with.
say
Okay, you go right ahead.
it? So you mentioned that one of the things that you do is you choose who you spend time with. But what if, due to your profession, you're forced to spend time with someone who is just constantly negative, just
Yeah.
their energy, and you have to actually be around them? What do you do to, and you've tried everything, but it's just
Yeah.
who that person chooses to be, but you're
Right.
forced to be around them. I mean, how do you smile and just keep doing it? It's like, okay.
So I think what we mentioned with Sandy still applies. I'm going to try to put energy in. If they don't give me back, not much. But if I have to be around, say that person's my boss, I don't get a chance to say I'm not going to put as much energy in.
Mm-hmm.
I want to reframe one thing. What you said, is it Nani?
Yes.
It's that I said, same thing I used to say, oh, I'm forced to be in the room with these people. Oh, I reframed that. I get to be in the room with these people. How am I best use this time? I'm not forced to. I get to be in it. It's a privilege to be in the room with people. Or I'll say something like, this is a complex one. If I can figure them out, I mastered level 6. I have games in my head. Like I don't even play video games, but I'll say I mastered level 6. And so I have a person now that he is Skittles are nasty, babies are ugly, and he doesn't like puppies. Like he is just mean. It's nothing to do to stress with COVID. This is just who he is. And I think he likes it because he gets attention by being rude and negative. And when he was on the call, I got in and I talked to him and I said, do you mind if we follow up after? He goes, people don't normally want to follow up with me. And I said, I do, because you intrigue me. I'm very curious as to your background that led you to how you behave today. He says, what does that mean? I said, let's talk about it. After 30 minutes, this dude was like, well, my mom beat me or whatever, I don't know, something like that. And I actually had empathy for him. Right now, I can't do that in every situation. But if I can get to know the person, I actually will try it. Because if I got to spend hours with you, I got to solve this. I don't want to walk in negative every day. And people would say, with one of the bosses I had, I spent so much trying to work with him. And why do you spend so much energy with him? Because I don't want to be miserable every day. I want to figure out how to solve it. And if I can't solve it, I just look at it differently. That one boss I never solved for, his office was next to mine. I just practice empathy. What must have happened to him for him to be this way? And I didn't feel sorry for him. I didn't let him off the hook. I felt empathetic toward the fact that you have a life that causes you to be this way. And I let it go at that. Once I looked at it differently, you don't get to take my energy. That was the other thing. He would say something negative and I would go, okay, all right, your opinion. And then I would still be smiling. He goes, you're always smiling. I said, because you don't own my energy. Right? I'm not giving that much power away to anybody. I never hate, right? Yeah. You don't get that much power from me. So I just reframe. It doesn't mean he's not negative. I reframe how I look at it because that's more for me, not for him or that person. So I hope that helps Nani a bit.
That's very helpful because, oh yeah, she said that, why are you all smiling? Why are you so happy? Why are you so, and it's just constant. And it's like, because I enjoy my life, like, because I thoroughly enjoy who I am. So yes, I will keep doing that. And thank you, because that is very helpful.
Yeah, don't let them take your energy. You're giving somebody a lot of power if you allow them to take your energy. Doesn't mean you don't get ticked off in the moment, but you better quickly reframe that because here's what happens, and this is what I realized. I drive home angry and mad every day. That person's whistling tunes in the car, happy. Like, no, you don't get that much energy from me. No, can't happen.
And we have time for a few more. Thank you.
There's one that do you hold on. I really got to bring my glasses next time. Do you motivate your own self or does motivation come from other people around you? You are very motivating and I thank you. I am full from this brown bag lunch.
Oh, that makes me happy too.
Because I'm sitting here starving. I don't know why I thought I was going to have lunch. I don't know. I didn't eat.
Virtual. You're eating. Words.
You don't want me to eat on camera. That is not. But I would say it comes from both. Motivation is intrinsic. The psychologist on my team says technically nobody can motivate you. It's internal. Right. They can create an environment in which you feel motivated, but a lot of it comes from internal. And practicing gratitude has been the most motivational thing. Missy saying, yeah, I am grateful for the stuff that I have. And it's not just always the big stuff. That first day after COVID, I got toilet paper. You'd have thought I hit the lotto. I would dance. I didn't want to dance too much so my neighbors find out I got it. But it just little things every day. At the end of every day, I say, what is the thing I'm most grateful for? Sometimes it was, best French fries ever. Sometimes
your air fryer. How about that?
My air fryer. I call it today my air fryer. It was $30, but you would have thought it was. I got a chance to spend time with a friend, right? So every day I think about something I'm grateful for, and I'm not saying huge stuff. It could be your kids, your partner, spouse, and sometimes it's just I'm grateful I made it through today, and I showed the best of myself to people who were really mean. Like I was proud of that. So that's the internal motivation. And then I do try for every negative person I have to be around, Nani, I find at least 2 more people that are positive. So when I would leave my boss's office, I would go down to our assistant secretary, who was just another Misty, rainbows and Skittles, and she would build me right back up. But I'm never leaving the office after having just talked to that person because you're going to make me take that home. So I do try to do internal, but surround myself with people as well that give me that motivation.
All right, and apologies, I skipped over Sean Treese. She said, ladies, thank you for this forum. Dr. Ellen, have you advocated for introverts in the workplace? What advice, if any, can you offer?
Yeah, put your voice in a way that works for you. Everybody thinks you have to be outspoken, loud in this. The most quiet voices, still voices are sometimes the most powerful. Find a way that works for you. And maybe it's not speaking up in the meeting. Maybe you send your comments ahead of the meeting. And the person says, oh, before the meeting, this person said this or this happened. Find how you deliver your voice and be comfortable. And then this is the big part. Sometimes you're going to have to be a bit uncomfortable. As an introvert, you're going to have to be a little uncomfortable. And I want you to ask yourself, would my voice add value in this moment? If it's maybe, just stay quiet. If it is absolutely my voice would add value, then I want you to be uncomfortable and do it. It's about as uncomfortable as me having to shut my mouth. So as an extrovert, I'm like, ooh, do you add value? No, shut up, Ellen. Ugh. So it's just as hard the other way.
You always have something to say.
People don't realize how hard, but so part of it is find your voice in a way that matters to you And you do not experience growth typically without some level of being a little bit uncomfortable. And the more you do it, the more it'll come second nature. So you can flex when you need it.
Any more?
No other questions that I saw. A lot of thank yous, a lot of grateful for this session. A lot of people really grateful for the honesty.
Awesome.
Oh, hold on. Let's see. Nope.
Uh-oh.
Kim Johnson. Hold on. Practicing gratitude is the best. I love your comment. I have taken a lot from this lunch. Thank you. Unfortunately, my biggest struggle is the power I give my inner voice towards myself, primarily due to health issues.
Yeah. And that one, maybe you could turn around because your inner voice is very powerful. Just decide what you want to say to yourself. Decide what you want to say, because it is very powerful. That's why if we only do the deficit-based speaking, it'll wear us down. You got to at least balance that with something more affirmative for yourself as well. I appreciate that comment.
All right. Can you guys believe it? I told you it goes by so fast, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's time to wrap up. Now, before I kind of get ready to close out with some thank yous, any last words, Dr. Ellen? Because one of the things that I want people to leave with today is that those nuggets, that iron sharpens iron, something that you can put into action. Anything you want to share with people before I get ready to close out?
Yeah, I guess I would say, I love my quotes. Don't laugh at me. I love quotes, but the tennis player Arthur Ashe said, no matter what you're doing, I don't care if you're working on a new job, working on getting to be more assertive, working on, trusting people more, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. That first move is the hardest. Start where you are, use whatever you have, and do what you can, and then continue to build on it. That first step is the absolute hardest in trying to solve for anything.
Ooh, love it. Love it. So, with that being said, this is our final session. I'm full. I don't know about you guys, but I'm full. And I talk to Dr. Ellen all the time and still left with nuggets that I have written down on my post-it note here that I'm going to call you about afterwards so we can debrief the debrief. But I want to thank you guys for making this series successful. We've had 6 conversations over the last several months, ending today with a very intimate conversation. And I'm so glad I chose to do it this way. 22 women speakers, including Sandy and Misty, that are on the call today, and over 350 attendees throughout the entire series. It's so exciting. One thing, if you guys have been a part of this journey, you'll get a survey within the next 24 hours. Just take a moment, fill it in. It gives me a little feedback as I think about 2021 and what series I'd like to launch in 2021. Another thing I had spoke about last time is everybody's not ready to move into next thing, the next thing right away. Sometimes you got to do a little work on the inside, and that's what slaying your invisible dragons is about. It is about getting rid of the success blockers in your career, doing the work on the inside. So this one was set to launch this month. Because of COVID, I am launching it in January. So I hope that if you are ready to move into something new in 2021 and a 4-part series where you're doing the work on the inside, you'll join me for that one. And the link to more information will be dropped in the chat. I don't know if it's there because I can't see the chat function for that one. And you can go to my website to find out more information and learn a little bit about it and even register, because it will be a small group of women that I'll be taking through those 4 weeks so that we can build relationships. So it is 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. And I'm going to drop it here. And that is it for now. With that being said, I want to thank you for spending your time today. Thank you for all the kudos that I saw come into the chat. If you got something out of it, I thank you for your time and for your participation today. With that, you guys have a wonderful afternoon and a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye-bye. Calling you, Ellen.